Brett Favre is suing the shit out of Pat McAfee along with Shannon Sharp and the auditor of the state for dragging his good name through the mud. Of course, everybody knows Brett Favre, the famous, everybody's favorite quarterback from the Minnesota, famous for his time in the Minnesota Vikings, right? Brett Favre, the great Minnesota Vikings quarterback. He also spent a little bit of time in the Packers, but everybody really remembers his run with the Vikings. And Brett Favre, he was also a Falcon too, believe it or not. Hey, I know some shit about sports ball. What do you know? I was trading cards in like school and stuff, high school or junior high. Like I was into the cards and stuff, so I know a thing or two, but I don't watch that shit anymore. But I know Brett Favre is awfully pissed off that his good name is getting dragged through the mud as he has lashed back at the sports media this week, firing lawsuits in every direction to protect his good name. Of course, this goes back to the big scandal in Mississippi from a couple years ago now, but more just seems to be coming out about this. Us in the wrestling world are going to be familiar with this story as it pertains to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Apparently, there was a fund that the government was putting together that was strictly designated to benefit the poor people, the poor community in Mississippi. And whoever was running this fund here was using it basically as a slush fund to deal out funds to his buddies and cronies all around town and just fund all this shit out of this account that was meant to benefit the poor. Ted DiBiase, of course, famously part of that, receiving part of that for his ministries, and his son, his children. Just as a quick refresher, check out this clip from about a year ago. Jim Cornette talking about this very thing on his podcast.
Mississippi history.
Oh, God.
Three
When
members
you say it like
Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi. I shouldn't pile on Ted DiBiase and his family,
oh boy.
but being a proud Mississippian, I'm going to. This next one was sent to cornydrivethrough@gmail.com from Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi. I shouldn't pile on Ted DiBiase and his family,
Oh boy.
but being a proud Mississippian, I'm going to. From their involvement in the biggest embezzlement scheme in Mississippi history,
Oh, God.
three
When you
members
say it like that, it sounds unsavory.
3 members of the DiBiase family have been ordered to pay back stolen welfare money to the state. Ted DiBiase Jr. must repay $3.9 million plus interest.
Ouch.
Ted DiBiase Sr. must return $722,299 that his Christian ministry received. And finally, Brett DiBiase has to repay $225,950. What are your thoughts on the DiBiase family stealing millions in welfare money from the state of Mississippi?
Oh, come on. I don't. Is stealing it the proper word? They didn't go and knock somebody over the head and pick their pocket. They just misdirected funds from the state that were to be used for poor people for their own ends. That doesn't make it sound any better. I like Ted DiBiase. I've never.
So now flash forward, and allegedly, and we'll get to that word here in a minute, but allegedly Brett Favre has been tied to this fund as well, as he was reportedly taking payouts from this fund meant for the poor community of Mississippi. And of course, Brett Favre, a huge celebrity in Mississippi. He's, Mississippi's favorite son, as you would imagine, and very heavily involved in the community there and very friendly with everybody. And he had this schmooze deal where he got funds donated, allegedly, to help his daughter's school build a whole fucking volleyball stadium that, she's a volleyball player. So daddy got a stadium built for her to play volleyball in. And a couple other donations. Apparently he came up with a fucking cream that you could just kind of, rub on your head and it would relieve concussion pain or something. I don't know. I didn't research it, but mysterious funding came from that as well. And also, on top of that, he was taking payments from somebody from somewhere for speeches that he never actually went and did. So lots of money getting moved around. And Brett, of course, denied all of this, saying that he didn't know where this money was coming from. He didn't know it was coming out of this fund meant for the poor. And, of course, all of that was thought to be bullshit, though nobody knew for sure. And then now text messages have later come out tying Brett Favre, or at least, putting him in more hot water, if you will, making the case look worse for Brett, where he's asking in these text messages about, will the media find out where this money's coming from? Now, his attorneys have already come out and they're fighting this and they're denying this, but it's not looking good for Brett. And this has caused the sports media world to kind of talk about it on their show. And now Brett has gone on the offense, and he has filed lawsuits against three of the biggest offenders of this, I guess, was the auditor who found this shit in the first place. He's getting sued. And then Shannon Sharp, apparently, he has some kind of a show of some kind. He played for the Packers, too. He played with Brett Favre, right? So... Right, that was Shannon Sharp, right? I know there was two brothers. There was Sterling Sharp and Shannon Sharp. Pretty sure Shannon was Packer. And then there was, and then Pat McAfee, unfortunately, got roped into this. So first I'm going to play you a clip of some of the reactions that Pat McAfee had on his show, some of the things that he had said that were causing Bret Hart to claim was defamatory and what he's suing for. Then we're going to go ahead and move into Pat McAfee's response to the lawsuit itself. Check out these clips.
Brett Favre, AJ. Brett Favre.
What now?
Your former teammate. Bro, I think we're going to be able to say what now for a while now, because this is what I think it happened. Now, it is alleged. This is all allegedly. But it is alleged that two companies that Brett Favre was a part of rounded up some money, I believe, from the welfare fund of Mississippi to kind of build a business around concussion cream that was not effective, I guess, is what also was being alluded to, and something else in the medical department. What I think is being alleged in the grander scheme here is you're talking about finding out that there's a plug that you can get to. And in 2020, I believe 2 people pleaded guilty. The head of the welfare fund, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, and also the head of the nonprofit in Mississippi. These 2 people in 2020 pled guilty to fraudulent schemes.
Yep.
So I think what had happened was Brett Favre was introduced to these people who had control over the welfare fund and over the nonprofit part of the Mississippi government funds. And their conversation was, hey, we have access to, they're saying like $20-30 million. We have access to this money that's supposed to go to the welfare fund. We can figure out, so donations to schools, business investments, because we can market that we're investing in the fund, so we're trying to grow the fund, but we just so happen to be investing in businesses that are owned by friends of ours, let alone any other money that was potentially going out. There's a lawsuit for $20 million plus against this group. So we're not just talking about small amounts of money here. We're talking about a scheme in which the person that was running the welfare fund in Mississippi had access to the fund and was divvying it apparently to friends and businesses. This is like classic why everybody trusts nobody anymore. This is people in positions to help people fucking people over blatantly and deliberately, allegedly, obviously, in this whole thing. And Brett is just one of like 38 names that is listed in this entire thing. And it is all bad, AJ. It is all bad. I mean, it is not good at all.
In other news tonight, former football star Brett Favre is suing state auditor Shad White and 2 sports broadcasters, Shannon Sharp and Pat McAfee. Favre alleges defamation in his filing in Hinds County Circuit Court. He is citing White's criticism of his involvement in the state's multi-million-dollar TANF fraud scandal.
I'm getting sued by Brett Favre.
What?
Yeah, we made it, boys. Hey,
You're right.
Take a bow.
let's raise our drinks.
Sure.
When we started this little show in the basement of a house that certainly was haunted.
Yep.
And the mics rarely worked, and we talked for an hour and a half on numerous occasions and found out that we weren't recording. This show has grown so much that we're lucky to be live from Radio Row. We're lucky to have a little bit of say in sports. We're thankful that we have the opportunity every day to be a part of the sports media world. And I guess whenever you get a little bit too big, you fly a little bit too close to the sun.
That's right.
I'm getting sued alongside Shannon Sharp and an auditor from Mississippi by Brett fucking Favre.
Wow. Man.
Brett Favre suing me in a defamation lawsuit saying I defamed his name to try to earn a profit. With this, obviously, I believe comes discovery and depositions and all these other things. So I would like to let the New York lawyers that wrote me 2 letters before this thing got announced. First letter was, we would like you to go back and erase every single video that has Brett Favre's name mentioned in it from your YouTube library, your Twitter library, and everything else. This is a warning shot pretty much.
Huh.
So I looked at that. I said, that is hilarious. Of course we're not doing that. Put that down, move on with my life. Then a few days later, just a few days ago actually, you have until Wednesday, okay, this Super Bowl week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, to issue a public apology to Brett Favre and also to erase all of the video in your catalog that involve Brett Favre's name. That is 8:30 Wednesday. So my wife read that to me because I was here. She was not here yet. And I immediately started laughing because my wife understands I'm one of the worst apologizers in history. It's tough to get me to do it. It is. It's very difficult. So now I had a deadline, 8:30. I was planning on doing it.
Yeah.
We played pickleball.
We did. It happens.
Flew right through
Oh, I'm sorry.
What do you
I just
do?
learned about a drop shot. Oh, I'm sorry. I just learned how to serve with like a wicked topspin on it. And I got caught up. That timeline came and went. And all of a sudden, I'm getting sued. I would like to let everybody know the quotes that were in that lawsuit were certainly accurate. But there's one word I believe that was said often on this particular program, if you were to watch it all, and that would be allegedly.
That's right.
Allegedly, obviously, in this whole thing. Our job is to report the news. Allegedly, what was going on down in Mississippi with Brett Favre, the man who is suing me for money and for defamation, was being reported on this particular program because we owe the sports media world our coverage of it. We take our job seriously as journalists. We had to cover that situation, and we certainly said allegedly. And a lot of people are wondering how my lawyers are going to handle this. You know it. I ain't got them. So let's ride this fucker. I'm excited to see how it goes. I'll see you in court, pal.
Now, you'll notice because news broke for the Brett Favre lawsuit on Pat McAfee before Pat McAfee responded on his show. So I was already reviewing clips for this segment and kind of putting this segment together before McAfee even responded to this. And I was already going to argue because it's clear as day in those segments. If you go back and listen, I'm not going to re-clip it out for you, but if you caught it or if you go back and listen, he does clearly say at least a couple times in what I've watched, allegedly. I've never heard Pat McAfee talk about Brett in any of the videos that I watched about it. And I did go back and review the different clips. Now, I didn't sit and listen through multiple shows of his, but there are several clips of him talking about this. And in all of those clips, it's allegedly. Now, he is going off of the news that's being reported, and he's talking about the news that's being reported. And you can't have a sports show and not talk about what's going on in current events in the world of sports. And Brett Favre is a big fucking deal in the world of sports. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, right? So he's going to get that attention from the sports media. Shannon Sharp and then Pat McAfee included. Pat seems overly enjoyed about this. At least that's the face he's putting on for the show. Pat's funny as fuck. I am endlessly entertained by Pat McAfee. I think he's absolutely brilliant and effortlessly brilliant in his presentation of just his character. It's just him. It's just who he is. and it jumps to life on the screen and on the microphone, and he's fantastic at what he does. He's brushing this off. I ain't got a lawyer. I'll represent myself. I don't care. He's like, I'm pretty sure I said allegedly and everything, and he certainly did. I think it'll be hard to find him saying anything in his show that is outright defamatory to Brett. Now, this is defamation is very hard to prove. Not only do you have to prove that they were just outright recklessly defaming you, but you also have to be able to prove damages. Now, this will certainly be damage to Brett Favre's reputation, so I think they might be able to get that proven. But to show, it's clear as day. McAfee has said allegedly in everything, and he knows what he's doing. He's smart. It's the same thing I would do too. If you're gonna speak on something that hasn't been proven or ruled in court yet, like this, they're allegations. Innocent till proven guilty. I stand by that. As bad as it looks for Brett, you gotta let the courts decide and play things out. But you can't have a sports show if you're Sterling Sharp or you're Pat McAfee and not talk about the Brett Favre situation, especially as the plot thickens. And look, I pulled news clips too from different news stations talking about these texts and stuff. So this isn't just alleged rumor shit. This is being covered by major shows. Now, I didn't plug that in because I figured with Pat McAfee's reaction to this, I would center it more on the Pat McAfee Show specifically than just, the overall case for Brett. But all that information's out there. There's lots linking him to this scandal in Mississippi, and Brett's fighting it, and he's out there actively on the offense about this thing. But at the end of the day, you can't blame people for talking about it, as long as they're slipping in that allegedly, because we don't know until the courts sort it all out. Only God and fucking the court system will know what the truth is in this thing. And, McAfee, by all accounts, and look, I'm not an expert. I'm certainly not a legal expert, but I'll tell you what I am. I'm a journalist. I'm a podcast journalist, goddammit. And I also have a journalism degree. And in journalism, you're not barred from writing about this kind of shit as long as you are careful with your wording. Allegedly covers your bases. You are saying that people are alleging. That's what allegedly means. So here is the story allegedly. People are alleging that this is a thing that's happening, and that's fair fucking game, especially on a news show. And it pisses me off as a journalist, as a podcaster, as a YouTuber, as a guy who's just all for free speech and anti-censorship. I think it's bullshit that you can't people. Look, I guess I'm going a little bit too far there, because the use of allegedly should be cut and dry. But I also get you can sue a ham sandwich, they say, if you want to. Doesn't mean you're going to win, but you can. And this is, more than just a lawsuit over defamation. This is a lawsuit to protect Brett's image, a way for him to go on the offensive. For one, they sent, as you saw in the clip there, they sent cease and desist to McAfee, and I'm sure, Sterling Sharp got him and all that too, or Shannon Sharp, whatever, the football guy. So they got the cease and desist. Maybe it was in hopes that they would just get this to go away. Pat McAfee obviously isn't scared of it. He's wearing it as a badge of honor. We made it to the big time now, boys. Let's celebrate. You know what I mean? He don't give a fuck. At least on camera, he doesn't give a fuck, because he feels his bases are covered, and I feel like they are too. I think this is more of a way that for Brett to protect his image and just kind of go on the offense and try to maybe make some of this stuff go away, or just at least make himself, if he just sits back and takes it all, then that makes him look worse than him coming out and saying, hey, fuck you, you guys are ruining my character. I get where he's coming from with that. So it's at least worth a try, but I think Pat's going to be just fine in this situation. As for Brett, I don't know. I think it'll be for the courts to decide. I think the hang up right now is that Brett's got texts with the person that's already pled guilty. So look, the person that was responsible for this fund, and I believe his aide too, both pled guilty and are serving multiple. The head of this fund is serving like 30 years or was sentenced to 30 plus years for this scandal. They're using fucking taxpayer dollars meant for the poor to give out to their fucking homies around town. And, Ted DiBiase was a part of that. His son, especially. Ted DiBiase owes like maybe $700,000. I think is that what was said in Cornette's clip. But Teddy Jr., almost $4 million. Ouch. Oh, I don't think he made that in wrestling. That's going to be a tough one. Look to see him back out on the indies trying to pay off his fucking his debt to Mississippi. But look, Brett can say, I didn't know where it was coming from, and the texts were with the aide of this office. So like it was like a direct contact to the guy managing this fund, But certainly Brett is at this point, the argument on his side is that this was more of Brett just not wanting, because he's a very wealthy football player, doesn't want anybody in the media to catch wind that he needed help to get this facility. I don't know if that'll stick, but look, it's not for me to decide, and I've ranted about this enough because I'm not a sports ball guy. But Pat McAfee, a wrestling guy, good old member of our wrestling community as the commentator for SmackDown. And, of course, this ties back to the $1 Million Man. So it is definitely in the wheelhouse of professional wrestling. And we'll keep an eye on this if anything develops. But I think, for the most part, Pat is right to kind of just be laughing this off at this point, because it's going to be very, very hard to prove defamation against McAfee, or that he had ill intent, or that he was trying to hurt Brett, or that, just that allegedly is going to protect him all the way through. So that's my 2 cents about it. But hey, if I got anything wrong, if you're more of a legal expert on this, or if you know anything else, just want to contribute in any way, go ahead and leave your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next.
Let me tell you something, brother. You can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on this channel, dude. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother.